How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. And I'm making it. I'm here. I think I figured out something comfortable where I can make it for the hour without squirming all over the place. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about some new stuff that's come out about individuals involved in this Mueller investigation on President Trump, and how it points back to the same bias. And again, as I talked about yesterday, if you missed yesterday's show, you'll want to go back and watch that, because we really did cover some very important stuff on how these people are chosen, and the reality of what happens when they get caught doing these types of things. It's not like they get fired for lack of candor. It's that they get promoted, actually. And we'll talk, I'll refresh that a little bit, but And then something very disturbing about Matt Lauer and all those allegations against him. So let's go ahead and get started. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. So, here's the thing. I think when I first started this show, I started it out to talk about how, I had it set up where I'd have the warning order first, and a warning order would kind of lay out the flow for the way the show was going to happen, the things that we're going to concentrate on, and then we're going to have A block, B block, C block. Well, that's very difficult when you're the person doing all the editing, coming up with the show, writing the show, coming up with the stuff beforehand. So forgive me, sometimes I don't make it to the different blocks. Really, that's more just to break stuff up than anything. But tonight, it's very interesting because, as I talked about last night, when it comes to the FBI, something that's very serious, and I actually saw a guy get kicked out of the FBI for lack of candor. Lack of candor is a why does it feel like I have a delay on my thing here? This is kind of weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm looking at my stuff as I talk, and it looks like I have a delay. Remember, I'm the tech guy as well, so I'm also the sound guy, the video guy. I don't know how to fix this right now, but so basically, lack of candor is something that's very serious. All right, and it's something that is when you look at the importance of this thing called lack of candor, really what it comes down to is if you misrepresent yourself, if you make yourself out to be something that you're really not, if you don't follow by the rules and the regulations and the policies and procedures and the law, all those are basically choices that you make, and therefore your candor, the person that you are, is degraded in a way, and that's a fireable offense in the FBI. I've seen people get kicked out of the academy. I've seen people get fired for this type of stuff. So it's interesting when we look at, and I know in businesses it's the same way, when we look at the executives and how not just, it's very clear now. When we look at the reality of executive treatment and executive behavior across the board, we're talking about private companies. We're talking about government agencies. We're talking about Hollywood, the media, all of this stuff suffer. All these executives suffer from a lack of candor. I just was reading somebody's comment there on Twitter. It says it undermines their integrity. That's absolutely right. So when we look at what's going on in this FBI investigation, the Mueller investigation, not the Comey. Remember, we can say Comey and Mueller investigation. The reality is the Comey investigation was really about, was focused on Hillary Clinton and all this stuff with the emails. But, the reality of the Hillary Clinton investigation under Comey is that it was less of an investigation and less of a it was more of discovery on the part of this hand-picked group of people by the FBI director, so they could see the scope and breadth of what was coming in and what would normally be a chargeable, and really I think a case that you could absolutely get multiple convictions out of. But what they did was, instead of putting the case together, now this is my opinion, but having served in the FBI and seen how the U.S. Attorney's Office works with the FBI and how we put cases together and how these cases are built, specifically, usually, remember, the FBI is not a law enforcement agency that goes and drives around and arrests people because they robbed a bank or robbed, let's say, a liquor store, so we're going to run over there and grab somebody, or because they're doing something and carrying a concealed weapon on the ground, out in the open, without a permit or whatever. That cops patrol. They do traffic stops. They do this type of stuff. In the FBI, we are not on the hunt per se, as much as we are responsive to complaints or information of crimes that come in or things that are under our jurisdiction. So when we put a case together and when we work with the U.S. Attorney's Office, we work with assistant U.S. attorneys, we are actually looking at the whole picture, gathering information to first and foremost see if it's a chargeable offense, see if we can charge these people. Once we determine whether or not we can charge them, then what we do is we develop the case for that so that we can charge them, not just so that we can arrest them, but so that they can actually be charged and we can actually successfully put them in jail. That's why whenever, the mob in the old days, they were always very worried when the Bureau showed up, because the Bureau doesn't just show up. It's not like they just get a complaint and they go show up. They get a complaint, they open up investigation, they follow, and they do all these things for 5 years. I've seen a case go for 5 years. Easy. So when we look at the Comey case, which was AKA the Clinton case, Hillary Clinton case, what we see is a case that was put together not to get a charge. It was put together to keep her from being convicted or from being charged. That's what I see. The evidence does not lead me to believe, when I look at the structure, how the case was structured, the people that were handpicked to do this, to be a part of the investigative team. We're seeing multiple Trump haters. We're seeing multiple Hillary Clinton supporters, and we're seeing multiple SESers, senior executive service members, that are closely related to each other. And if you know, like I described last night, these people do not go out and stab each other in the back. They typically work very closely together in order to keep themselves from being stabbed in the back. So again, that's why you see like this guy that was involved, this FBI agent that was involved with these text messages, which I guess are going to be released, hopefully, with an FBI attorney. They were evidently having sex. They want to say having a relationship. They were having sex, is what they were doing. And they somehow passed these, we're going back and forth with these text messages, and somehow they got out. So they got out because of a source, basically, which means either somebody that works for the Bureau had it, and they were on this investigation potentially, and they said, like they had some underlings doing the dirty work, which is typically what happens. You have the regular agents doing the collection, and then these muckety mucks up there in the senior executive service messing it all up and sticking in their political values. And so somebody got a hold of these text messages, their information somehow, and they got a hold of Congress, and they let Congress know about this. And so this has actually been going on for a while, where they were trying to get this information from the FBI, but the FBI ignored them. So now Nunes in the, I think it's a House Intelligence Committee, is going to hold the FBI, Mueller and Christopher Wray, in contempt of Congress if they don't produce these text messages. So basically, this whole thing screams lack of candor. And I know that a lot of people are saying it screams criminal behavior. I'm not saying that it doesn't. But it's very interesting when you look at these senior executives across the board. And when I talk about Matt Lauer and NBC here in a second, and they had a roast for Matt Lauer where they had all these obscenities and stuff talking about the sexual stuff that he was doing in the office. This was back in 2008. You're going to see that the lack of candor that would normally get people fired is not only overlooked, it's not even given a look, because either they're all involved in this type of stuff, or they just accept each other's lifestyles and just move on. It's like you and your best friends. You may not agree with some of the things that your friends do, but you're not going to sit there and criticize them or befriend them or stop being their friends because of that. So it's just very interesting. This keeps jumping out at me more and more as we go along. So I'm going to, if my computer unfreezes here, I'm going to pull up this. Stand by 1 second. I'm going to pull up this article from foxnews.com. So this is another thing. So Mueller now, so that other agent that we talked about yesterday was part of the Clinton investigation, the Comey investigation. He was also part of the Anthony Weiner computer part of the investigation, and which, you know, any part that guy touched should be considered tarnished, and they should go back and reinvestigate all of that. I believe in a real case, this is what would happen. I can guarantee you the defendant and the defense attorney would say, whoa, we're going to go back and we're going to look at all this stuff again that this agent was privy to. Now, as I said last night, though, I don't think it's just this agent. These people were handpicked. I think it's the whole lot of them. This one agent just got popped is all it was. Somebody leaked because he was stupid enough to go out, which thankfully he is, stupid enough to go out and brag or say or do whatever he did on these text messages with this woman that he was having sex with. I almost said something else. So now we come to one of Mueller in this investigation, the Trump-Russian collusion investigation, fake investigation, I should say. Mueller's deputy praises the DOJ official after she defied the Trump immigration ban. So if you remember, there a couple of, let's see, I think it was earlier in the year. Man, we got to thank Judicial Watch for all that they do. They pull up so much stuff. They're really good at getting this information through Freedom Information Acts. So the top prosecutor, who was he is now the deputy for special counsel to Robert Mueller, his Russian probe. At this particular time, let me see when this was exactly. Come on, computer. He praised let's see, here it is. Sally Yates. So she was the deputy attorney general under Rosenstein, or under when, let's see, how did this work? When Sessions recused himself, before they put Rosenstein in place, I think that's what happened. She wouldn't take part in Trump's ban of immigration ban. That's what they called it. His travel ban from certain majority Muslim countries, which now has been allowed to, by the Supreme Court, has been allowed to go full force, right? Well, Sally Yates wasn't having it, and she stood her ground, and she ended up getting fired by the president. And this guy, Andrew Weissman, who's now one of the counsel for the Mueller investigation, wrote to her and said, "I'm so proud and in awe. Thank you so much. All my deepest respects, Andrew Weissman." That's him writing to Sally Yates. So here again, what do we have? We have more Trump haters, more individuals who are in an investigation that has to do with the president, fake or not, and that are actively going out and not even hiding the fact that they politically don't agree with the president, and that they actually stand in stark contrast to him and stand against him in his policies. Now, we know that many of the attorneys that Mueller has hired are all huge Clinton donors, and that is in and of itself is a huge conflict of interest and shows the lack of candor that Mueller has, who I worked under Mueller in the FBI when I was an FBI agent. And quite frankly, he's a disaster. I don't know why he has the reputation that he has. So this computer's locked up. Okay. So stand by 1 second here. So I'll do it from here. So what we have here, just starting off, again, is another individual that's associated with the FBI and the special counsel, that Robert Mueller and James Comey, and the DOJ, that is completely out of control. These are people that they don't follow the rules and regulations that you and I would be held to, And in fact, they go far beyond following the rules and regulations. They have an absolute lack of candor. They do not have integrity. They do not have neutrality in their investigations. And that is of the utmost importance in an investigation. Look, I know a guy, I'm not going to go into detail who it is. I know a guy who, and he knows I've told this story before, who I was on a squad, and the Bureau arrested him for nonsense. But because he pissed off a supervisor, the supervisor turned it over to what's called our OPR, Office of Professional Management, I think it is, or Personal Responsibility. That's what it is, I think, Office of Personal Responsibility, and they declined to carry the case, and so the OIG, the Office of Inspector General of the DOJ, went after him, brought him up on 4 felony charges, only to have all those charges dropped years later after they tried to ruin his reputation, just like they did with Flynn. They just drug him through the courts, tried to ruin his family life, tried to ruin him economically, tried, all these different things. But, man, this guy held on. He did a great job. He got reinstated. He got back pay. They didn't ruin his marriage. They didn't ruin his life. But he had he had the ability to hang on there. General Flynn did not, so he pled guilty. So, but the whole point of this whole thing is that these types of individuals exist inside the Bureau and inside the DOJ, and they will go above and beyond to ruin people. And I remember talking to this individual after this was all cleared up, and we were talking on the phone one day, and he said, one thing that came out of this is that I will never, ever take for granted just arresting somebody. When you arrest somebody, you better make sure, and this speaks to his candor, okay? He said, when you arrest somebody, you better make sure that they know that you know exactly what they've done wrong. You better know that they are guilty, because if not, you are literally ruining a person's life, ruining it. I mean, look, if you're a Christian that goes directly in the face of what you believe in the Bible and what the Lord preaches and why Jesus came and died for our sins, because you don't waste your own life. Well, how much different is it when you go out and purposely waste somebody else's life just simply because their political values are different, when they're not guilty of something? Or in the case of my good friend, he did something wrong, but in all reality, what he should have gotten was 5 days, maybe a little longer, 5 days on the bricks where you don't get any pay. But instead, because somebody had a beef with him, an old supervisor, he just kept it going and kept it going, and they got to a point where they tried to ruin his life. And it made a profound impact on him. That's why I believe, that guy would be an incredible director in the FBI, because he would make sure that this nonsense would never exist. Whenever you raise your right hand and swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, you better understand that the commitment that you are, and the oath that you are taking, the commitment that you are making, is to the United States citizenry, that you are going to ensure you do your job to the fullest extent, and that you will not falsely accuse, falsely imprison, falsely kill, falsely ruin somebody's life. And when we look at all this stuff going on with the Clinton investigation, guilty. You could say it 1,000 times. She's guilty. Nothing. Why? Because they're politically on her side. Because McCabe's wife was getting money from the Democratic Party to the tune of almost $1 million or more. Because Comey loves Obama and thought that Clinton was going to get reelected, or was going to get elected, and so they didn't want to, they didn't want to poop all over that bed. You look at what all these people do, how they work, and the system in which they work. There's no candor. It's not even a lack of candor. There is no candor, and they have no concern. Think about this, folks. They have no concern for other agents' lives. They have no, think about this. They have no concern for the office of the President of the United States. They have no concern. Think about this, should blow your mind. Zero concern about national security. They didn't care at all the fact that Clinton had servers in her bathroom, that they were sharing classified information, that Uma Abedin, who's never even been through any academy or anything like that, worked her way up through this or that where she can be trusted with information. These people are just given clearances. It's crazy beyond me. It's not like they have to prove anything. It's not like they're held to a standard. You know, I know there's people that are watching this show right now. They're in the Bureau. They have to do a financial disclosure every year that basically lays everything out on the table that you have money invested in. Why? Because they found with Aldridge Ames and forget the name of the other guy, these spies that were spying for the Russians, that they lived lifestyles that they couldn't pay for. So they figured this out, and that's one of the ways they look for spies. They don't do that with senior executive service members, evidently, because McCabe didn't put in there anything about Hillary Clinton, or excuse me, about his wife taking money from the Democratic Party, $1 million. You know, these political appointees, they don't obviously have to do that. So there's no way to measure it there. I don't know if the political appointees even take polygraphs. Listen, you want to feel like a dirtbag, you could be a choir boy, and after you get through with a polygraph, you feel like your soul has been scrubbed out. It's terrible. It's a terrible experience. These people are very good at what they do. And Robert Hansen, that's it. Thank you, Joe. So Robert Hansen was the other guy, and one was from Ames, was from the CIA, Hansen was from the FBI. Both very similar cases, and both living lifestyles that they couldn't afford. Both of them sexually deviant, and both of them just very odd individuals. So, which is interesting, because when we talk about the majority of these people in Hollywood and Washington, D.C., they kind of fit that role, don't they? And wouldn't you say that the majority of these people that are in Washington, D.C. are living well above their means? They come in, they may be worth, you know, nothing or something, but they definitely leave millionaires. Am I the only one that finds that a little similar to Hansen and Ames? But they don't have to fill out financial disclosures. They don't have to give polygraphs every 5 years if they have a top secret SCI clearance. SCI, secret compartmentalized information. That means it's so classified that you're only allowed to know a part of it. Right? That's if you're a hardworking agent or support staff in the Bureau, that you've been through training, you've showed that you can be trusted, and you're only given, you know, this highly classified stuff, so you can only know a little bit of it. What do you think Hillary Clinton knows about a special project? Whereas we may only be able to know a little bit, even though we've proved that we can be trusted. Hillary Clinton's going to be given all the knowledge of that project. Senators and congressmen that are on Intel Committee, they're given all of that knowledge. Uma Abedin, given all of that knowledge, right? She then goes out and puts information on her computer. Long story long, which was I was getting back to a second ago, none of them are held accountable. None of them. And so they because these investigators are politically connected to them, they don't do anything. Yet they'll turn around and they'll go after President Trump all because of politics, just like my friend in the Bureau. They go after him and they crucify him. They're going to go after President Trump. They're going to go after Flynn. They're going to go after Jared, although I just wish they'd get Jared out of the White House. But they go after Jared. They go after all these people, not because they did anything wrong. I know there's people on here, the trolls were crazy last night. I know that they were crazy last night, but these people that are these leftists should, if they took a second to shut their mouths and close their not close their minds off, but open their minds up a little bit to a little bit of understanding. Hold on here one second, folks. If these trolls and these leftists would open their minds just a little bit and allow this to potentially take effect in their mind, where they could actually see the picture. They love these movies, movies like The Matrix or Mr. Robot, which I love that show, but man, they're so liberal on that show that they're fruitcakey liberal on that show. It's stupid. But they live in this dream world that they believe in the resistance. They don't even realize what they're resisting. It's not that they're resisting anything. What they're really doing is playing into the hands of these nefarious people with zero candor, with zero care, and they would lock these people up just as fast as they would lock up anybody else. They'd lock up their own mom because they don't care. They don't care. Now, I know this week I've been kind of focused already. These past 2 days I've been really focused on this part, but I think this is huge news that's coming out because it's clear evidence that this is the mindset of the upper echelon in the government, in the DOJ, in the FBI, in the DOD. We haven't heard anything from the DOD lately. I can guarantee you there's people in there still moving to continue these social experimentations, social change in the military to break down the Spartan lifestyle of warriors and to break down their efficiency and their effectiveness. I guarantee it's still happening. So let me just transition real quick over to the Matt Lauer, and we'll go ahead and go to the A block so I can drink some of this water, and then we will. I'm going to show you how this all kind of comes together. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. Whoop, hit the wrong button. All right. As you can see, and now if you're watching this show right now, our numbers aren't as high as they always are, but make sure that you, on Facebook, make sure that you share this show. On Twitter, make sure that you retweet it. Make sure that you go to Facebook. If you're on Twitter, go over to Facebook. Like my page. If you're on Facebook, go over to Twitter. Follow me. And if you're on Twitter and Facebook, go over to YouTube, which I got over here, and subscribe to my page. I mean, our page is growing over there, so that's good that's growing. Right now, we just don't get a lot of people over here on Facebook, but God bless you guys. Cindy Long. There's my buddy Will. Mark Chambers. Who else we got? The Dreadful Gamer. Ba-bum. I don't know who that is. Okay, so anyway, thank you guys for being on Facebook, or excuse me, on YouTube. So let's talk real quick. This is disturbing by all means. I got to stop doing this with my Velcro on my leg too, by the way. It's a habit. These braces they give you, I'll bring it over tomorrow and show you because I got 2 of them. They are, man, it's like a slow torture device. It doesn't really, it keeps my leg from bending. That's basically all it does. It's a soft cast that I can put on. I don't really take it off, but I'll lay there with it on the bed. I'll take it off so I can just lay there with my leg exposed for a little bit. But whenever it's just very interesting. It reminds me when I was a kid, and our drill instructor in officer candidate school used to do this, the same thing. You know how you could take some books and hold them out, and everybody's like, the kids are like, it's a book or a phone. I can hold this forever. You know, you keep them there, and after 10 minutes, you're dying, right? Well, it's the same thing with this brace. This thing weighs nothing. It's Velcro and material. But I'm telling you, after a week, oh my Lord, this thing is like, it's like having 5 Jack Russells walk around and just clamp onto your leg, and they're always on it. Just, yeah. Was that my Rico? I've got him locked in over there so he can't move. I'll have to check on him here in a second. So, Matt Lauer. This is interesting. We talk about lack of candor in the executive branches of government. Well, it also exists in the executive branches of media. Because you know how everybody at NBC, including Jeff Zucker, who's now over at CNN, they say that, you know, they didn't know anything about Matt Lauer's behavior. Surprised. Can't believe that Matt Lauer would do such a things. The one woman, I forget her name now, that because I don't watch their show, that came out and was totally heartbroken because of what has happened with Matt Lauer, because he's her friend. Unbelievably could not believe that this stuff had happened. Well, evidently, in 2008, at the Friars Club roast here in New York City, was attended by everyone from future President Donald Trump to TV legend Norman Lear. This is off of FoxNews.com. To a constellation of New York media elites, including Brian Williams, Diane Sawyer, Nancy O'Dell, and Howard Stern. It had everybody from NBC, and Jeff Zucker was there. He was, I think he was head of NBC at that point. And Martha Stewart was one of the speakers there as well. And it was a full-out roast, which some of these roasts are funny. But what's interesting about this is how it centered, the insults centered on sex when it came to Matt Lauer. And it wasn't about the fact that he couldn't get it, it's because he was having a lot of it. And the fact that he was sleeping with a lot of people that worked at the show. And this didn't just include comedians that get up there. These were fellow workers as well, people that worked with him. Let's see here. Jeff Zucker himself, head of CNN, was head of NBC at that point. Got up and said he actually denied last week that he had any idea about Lauer's in-office sexcapades. And this is what he said, though, during the roast. "It's just good to see Matt up here and not under my desk," Zucker said from the podium. "I don't want to say that Matt is a germaphobe, but he's the only guy I know that uses Purell both before and after he masturbates." Zucker also made a pointed allusion to Lauer's marital problems. "Matt was having some trouble at home with the wife," he said. "He was sleeping on Bryant Gumbel's couch. Lauer and Gumbel, a former Today host who is black, are known to be close friends." That wasn't part of the quote. He then went on to say, quote, "What's more boring than that?" Zucker joked. "Two white men watching golf." So there's a racist joke. So I can guarantee you, if Donald Trump said that joke, that Jeff Zucker would make sure that it would be all over CNN for a month, and they would talk about how the president is racist and the president is, he doesn't like people that are black or brown, and they would go on, and he should be impeached. And then you would get Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters and all these other buffoons up there on the Democratic Party saying, "Impeach 4-5." It would be on and on. But not because this liberal hack, Jeff Zucker, who I once said on the radio when I first got over to CNN when I was a contributor there, he's got an open door. You can walk up and say hi to him. You see him in the hallway. He's not a snob. I thought, this is a guy who has structured his leadership in a very profoundly great way. Well, little did I know, and it took a while because I had to do my investigating. It took a while to realize how much of a communist dirtbag he is and how much of another one of these executives with lack of candor that he is. It's scary. Al Roker was the co-host from that, and he was the roast master, and so he knew. And then his Today co-host, Meredith Vieira, was especially crude, making jokes about Lauer and Roker partaking in anal sex during the Turin Olympics. Katie Couric got up and did a David Letterman top 10 list about about Lauer, and a lot of that had to do with sex again. And she talked about him having oral sex with Ann Curry. This is a disturbing thing. Comic Bob Saget, who was on Full House, who was the father, he took the stage. He's a very dirty person. And he wrote that he gave Lauer some marriage advice. "Do what I'm doing, Matt. Come into the dark side. My next wife hasn't even been born yet." A pedophilia joke, right? Again, this was on the conservative side. This would be destructive, just absolutely destructive to anybody that was at this. So it wouldn't just be the one person that was there that said it. It'd be destructive to everybody that was there. Gilbert Godfrey, who I'm no fan of, got up there and they couldn't even publish what he was saying. And when Matt Lauer himself got up there, he alluded to having sex with former colleagues Kirk and Curry. And it's just unbelievable, folks. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Not just that this stuff happened. Look, I don't think for a second or doubt for a second that these executives didn't know, the co-workers didn't know, that these people didn't know that Matt Lauer was doing this. But again, what I talked about at the beginning of the show and what I talk about now, this lack of candor that exists at the upper echelons of federal agencies, of government, of Hollywood, of media, it's absolutely sickening. And the reality, to tell you the truth, these Wall Street protesters and these rich kids that go around, they stink, they never bathe, they get all the latest equipment, which I talked about last night. They all meet up in their little coffee houses and talk about how much they know because they read it somewhere or because somebody else told them this stuff. They too follow right along the same lines. Lack of candor. They treat people, they demand respect and treat people that don't see eye to eye with them. They treat them with absolute no respect. They say that you should respect freedom of speech, but yet when you show up to say what you want, they don't think that you should be given that freedom of speech. In fact, they'll attack you for it. That's how bad the left has gotten in this country. And let's not just leave out the right. I believe that the right is the upper echelons of the Republican Party are just as bad. You could have a conservative-owned business that's a large conglomerate. The chances are the people at the top are going to do the same thing because they can get away with it. Because overall, the morals and ethics and the candor in this country have been dropped and left behind. Just left. So here's what I'm going to do, folks. My leg now is starting to tell me I need to go ahead and jump off this show. And that's good because it's keeping me on time, I guess, with this. And I apologize for these shorter shows, but as I feel better, they'll get back to the grind where they were. Don't forget, Facebook, I want you to share the show. On Twitter, I want you to retweet it. On YouTube, I don't know what we do over there. If you're on Twitter, go follow me or go like my page on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, go follow me on Twitter. And both Facebook and Twitter, you should go over and subscribe to my page on YouTube. The more numbers we get, the better. Listen, if you're a troll, come on over. See the light. We'll guide you. Let's go to the Truth Zone. Right now. All right, why did I choose to speak on what I did today? In large part, let me turn this down, good Lord. It's because I reflect on what I've been taught through all my years of training and experience in government service. And that is that if you can't trust a person's character, you can't trust them. If there's somebody that lives a secret life and their ethics and morals in that other life, it'd be different if they lived a secret life where they put a coat on over and they went out and gave people $100 bills, or they spent the evenings looking for homeless people and feed them or shave them and bathe them. That's a secret life that is awesome. Okay, they're doing that and they're not looking for rewards. But when you look at somebody who has a secret life and that secret life is completely deviant, that secret life is full of nefarious behavior. I use that word again. If you look at their secret life and it's full of odd sexual practices that in a normal person's life would get them in trouble. I'm not saying they maybe have a fetish here or there, or they have a desire here or there, or a fantasy here or there. No. These are people that do things because of where they are that if you did them would get you put in jail. Whether it's Al Franken sticking his tongue down multiple women's throats, whether it's, thank goodness, Conyers, Senator Conyers, who just resigned today, he quit, right? He wants to get his son in office. Give me a freaking break. There's lots of people who are qualified to do that job. Detroit better get their butts out of their, or heads out of their butt so they can pick a right person. But the thing is, when you look at all these people that are doing all these things across the board at the top, what do you see? You see a lack of candor, a lack of integrity, a lack of judgment, and 100% self-indulged, narcissistic, almost psychopathic behavior. Remember, not everyone that is an executive is like this, but I can guarantee you, if you take all the executives, you will find some of these people. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. And as they become more prevalent, you become more susceptible to be punished for even the smallest infractions. Again, I know somebody in the FBI who got fired because they were $57 over on their travel claim, and they were told to put that down by a boss, but they still fired him. What were they firing him for? Lack of candor. This world is not fair that we live in. I get it. But what I will not stand for, and what I will continue to preach about over and over, and I hope that you, liberal or conservative, troll or somebody who shows up to see results and have good dialogue and unity, what I hope that you are starting to see is that you don't live and are not judged, don't live in the same world, and you are not judged by the same set of standards as the people at the top. They're not better, they're just in a different position. And because of that, they judge each other differently, they take care of each other differently, they punish each other differently, and you will always get the short end of that stick. As of always, there's a way out of this if we stand together, as I always say. I'm Jonathan Gillum. My good buddy Rico's over there asleep and trapped on the bed. I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, your candor and your integrity matter, and unity also matters. I'll see you tomorrow on The Experts. The truth has arrived. Don't forget to go to the GoFundMe page, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. Love you. See you tomorrow night. The truth has arrived. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.